got some mail. We're gonna get to those later though. Today's video is some good old-fashioned trainer tips. Today is a topic that came up during my live stream last week. A lot of people requested it, so I figure I might as well. Today I'm explaining how the process of adding Pokéstops to Pokemon Go works and a little bit of the Pokéstop science behind it. I'm going to go over a little bit of how Niantic's algorithm converts Pokéstops to gyms, how you can place Pokéstops to create gyms or create new EX eligible gyms. So first things first, the website is down. I guess we're not making this video. Nope, I just typed it wrong. The website that I'm looking at today is called PokemonGoMap.info. I've mentioned it before on the channel here, and it's really useful because it's, well, a map of all Pokestops and gyms, but it has a couple tools that really help you when you're creating new Pokestops, which maybe we should talk about that first. You can't submit Pokestops in Pokemon Go, still. Niantic's working on it. We've heard that from multiple sources. We've heard it from John Hanke himself. So that will be coming, but right now the only way to get new Pokestops in Pokemon Go is to create new portals in Niantic's previous game, Ingress. I know it's kind of a difficult workaround to level up in another game. You have to reach level 10 in Ingress in order to be able to submit portals, and that's kind of a process, but if you want new Pokestops and it's really worth it to you, there's a lot of people around the world putting in the work, making the game more enjoyable for their communities. I talked a lot about this in my video in Morocco, where players in the community there are leveling up in Ingress or working with Ingress players to create a better Pokemon Go landscape for everyone. So if you're willing to do the work, you're playing Ingress, you're leveling up, you're ready to submit new portals, let's talk about how you can place those most efficiently to create new gyms and potentially even EX raid eligible gyms. I'm going to focus more on kind of rural areas because those are the players who need it most, frankly. So we're going to look at some less populated areas than the Santa Monica Pier and talk about how you can get some new gyms and even EX eligible gyms in those areas. So to start off, you'll want to find your area. I'm going to use, for my example, Marrakesh, Morocco. This is Marrakesh. This is a map of all the Pokestops and gyms. Not all of them. I should say now that because bots are down, maps are down, there's no scanners and trackers in Pokemon Go, this database of Pokestops hasn't been updated because this website does rely on bots to scan for Pokestops. So this is accurate up to a certain date, which is whenever Niantic shut down all the maps and stuff. So any Pokestops that existed in the game up until then will show up here. Anything that's been added since, I don't think will show up unless they're scanning manually and adding them in, but I'm not sure. So when it comes to adding new Pokestops, there's a very important concept or technology called S2 cells. I've talked about them previously on the channel when we talked about, well, we figured out how Niantic uses S2 cells in Pokemon Go. So they're essentially squares or diamonds that map out the 3D space of the Earth in a 2D plane? In a 2D plane. That's what a plane. There are different size S2 cells and Niantic uses them for different things in Pokemon Go. So certain size S2 cells will determine the borders where weather changes, the borders between region exclusives, where Pokestops and gyms are placed. The smallest ones that we know of, level 20 S2 cells, are used for Pokemon spawn points. But the important ones to know for what we're talking about today are level 14 and level 17, and maybe level 12. Level 13. That's the other important one. Now the reason I'm using PokemonGoMap.info is because they've added S2 cell overlays. If you click on settings up here in the corner and go to the visual tab, you can choose which size S2 cells to display on the map. So we're going to start with level 13 cells. And there you go, you can see the cells mapped out here. The significance of level 13 cells is that there can only be one EX raid in a level 13 cell per wave, per week. So only one gym in each of these cells could host an EX raid per week. Obviously in Marrakesh, as we learned in my videos in my trip to Marrakesh, there has never been an EX raid in Marrakesh. There just isn't enough activity, there aren't enough players to trigger that. And also, their EX eligible gyms are a little questionable. That's level 13. We're gonna go down to level 14 now, which is the next important size that you need to know. Level 14 is where Pokestops and gyms are determined. So we're gonna zoom in a little bit on some of these cells. The number of points of interest, the number of Pokestops, the number of portals in a level 14 S2 cell is what determines when a Pokestop becomes a gym. Once you reach certain thresholds, a Pokestop will become a gym. So at the start, if there's only one Pokestop in a cell, obviously it's going to be a Pokestop, like you see right here in this cell in the center. Just one Pokestop, it's a Pokestop. When you get two Pokestops in a cell, the oldest Pokestop will become a gym. So if you look at the cell directly above it, 2 points of interest, one is a Pokestop, one is a gym. You can see the same in this cell over here with one Pokestop and one gym. The next threshold is 6. When you reach 6 Pokestops or gyms in a cell, a second Pokestop will become a gym. And again, it's the oldest, generally the oldest Pokestop that gets converted to a gym. So you can see here in this cell, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Still only one gym, but when you get up to 6, you'll have 2 gyms. So this one has a little more than 6. That's questionable, could be in either one, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 points of interest, 2 gyms. If we look over this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points of interest, 2 gyms. And then the final threshold that we know of is 20. It's a big jump, but once you hit 20, you'll have 3 gyms. Interesting to note though is that this cell down here only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and it has 3 gyms. None of these are sponsored as far as I can tell, but keep in mind that sponsored Pokestops and gyms shouldn't count towards the count for reaching the threshold for a new gym to be created. So you can have 3 gyms in one cell without reaching that 20 Pokestop threshold if one of those gyms is a sponsored location. This cell seems like a little bit of an anomaly. It's also possible that one of these gyms was relocated. We know that if Niantic moves a Pokestop or a gym from its original location to a new location, either because it was placed incorrectly or because someone complained about it, then that gym will keep its properties. That gym or Pokestop will not count towards the normal count. It kind of falls outside of the algorithm. So possible that one of these gyms was moved from a different location outside of the cell. But since we are focusing on rural areas, it's unlikely that there's anywhere with 20 Pokestops in one level 14 S2 cell anyway. So we can focus on cells with just one Pokestop because that's the easiest way to get a new gym. The final size of S2 cells that you need to be aware of is level 17. This is how Pokestops and gyms are placed. There can only be one gym or Pokestop per level 17 cell. That's why there's more portals in Ingress than there are Pokestops in Pokemon Go, because Ingress doesn't have that rule. In Ingress, portals can be a lot closer together, but in Pokemon Go, Pokestops have to be one per level 17 S2 cell. So if we zoom in on kind of a tighter area here, you can see that each of these Pokestops and gyms is in its own level 17 S2 cell. This is very important for placing new portals when you're submitting them through Ingress. Make sure you come on PokemonGoMap.info, check the portals around the Pokestops in the area, and make sure you're not submitting inside the same area of a level 17 cell that already has a Pokestop. Otherwise, it might make it into Ingress, but it won't get converted to a Pokestop in Pokemon Go. So hopefully that all makes sense. With all that explained, now let's talk about how you can target specific Pokestops or specific cells for creating new gyms, and then on top of that, creating new EX eligible gyms. To create new gyms, you want to look for level 14 cells with only one Pokestop. So for example, this cell right here has one Pokestop, and if you were to submit another portal in this cell, this Pokestop here would become a gym when that new Pokestop gets added. Now you could try to submit a Pokestop in a park. It looks like there's 3 park areas within this cell, but the new Pokestop in the park wouldn't be the one to get converted to a gym. It would be the one that's already there. So if you're looking to create a new EX eligible gym, you want to look for level 14 S2 cells with one Pokestop in a park. I know there's one around here because Zakusi and I found it and talked about it when I was explaining all this to him to help them get some new gyms, potentially EX eligible gyms. Where is it? Okay. Here's one. This Pokestop's kind of on the border, but as you zoom in, you can see that it's clearly in the top cell. And that this Pokestop here, which is in the park, is the only Pokestop in this level 14 S2 cell. So if a new Pokestop was added to this cell, this gym, or this park, this Pokestop would become a gym in the park. Now that doesn't immediately make it EX eligible, even though we know that gyms within parks are supposed to be eligible for EX raids. The reason for that is because Niantic sources their park data from OpenStreetMap, and they use data that's almost 2 years old at this point. Now I'm citing information from a Reddit thread on the Sylph Road from a user called Tintin Bolton. I remember that name because we talked about this previously. But Niantic sources their data from July 15th or so, 2016. Around the time the game was originally launched is the time that Niantic chose to use for this data. The reason that they use old data for OpenStreetMap is because when we talk about things like this, people go and map things incorrectly, trying to get new spawn points or different types of spawns or whatever. There are a lot of Pokemon Go players kind of abusing our knowledge of OpenStreetMap to try to skew the game in their favor. So by using older data, Niantic is using data that is confirmed to be accurate, in this case, before Pokemon Go players ever got a hold of it. But they do occasionally update to include new parks for things like nests. We know they've done that, but it's never immediate. So don't go on OpenStreetMap and make changes and expect to see changes in-game immediately, because Niantic kind of gives OpenStreetMap users a chance to vet everything, to verify everything, and to erase inaccurate changes before they actually go and use that data for Pokemon Go. So you can go and try to map things incorrectly, but just know that it's going to get deleted or fixed before it ever makes it into Pokemon Go. So with that knowledge in mind, what you want to do is go on OpenStreetMap and find the park that you're looking at on PokemonGoMap.info. We are going to Marrakesh. Might be easier to just search for the name of the park. So this is the park that we're looking at on PokemonGoMap.info. Here it is on OpenStreetMap. I'm going to zoom out a little so you can see it better. So to check when this park was created and whether or not it's actually mapped as a park that would count for Pokemon Go, you want to come over here to the Query Features button, click on it, and then click on the park. On the side here, you'll see OpenStreetMap tells you nearby features and enclosing features. When you hover over enclosing features, you see Park Lala Hasna. That's probably a terrible pronunciation, but if you click on that park, then you can learn a little bit more about it. For example, it's tagged as Leisure Park. We know that Niantic will recognize that as a park in Pokemon Go, and it was edited 10 months ago. Unfortunately, this one might not be eligible. You can check up on it by looking at the specific nodes, which are like the points of the mapping. So if you click on a node, you can see this node here in the corner. This is the corner node of the border when someone was drawing the border of the park. This was edited almost 3 years ago, and it's part of the park. So there's a pretty good chance that this park existed 2 years ago on OpenStreetMap when Niantic sourced their data, and it should be eligible for EX raids. So going back to PokemonGoMap.info, we know that this Pokéstop in this park should become a gym that is EX eligible when one more Pokéstop gets added to this S2 cell, anywhere in the S2 cell. It could be all the way down here in the corner. Well, don't add it in the road, but maybe in this park or in this park, whatever these are. This Pokéstop will become a gym. This gym is inside a park that Niantic recognizes as a park and should be eligible for EX raids. You always want to make sure you go and check OpenStreetMap to see if it's mapped as a park, because there are a lot of green areas here on PokemonGoMap.info that wouldn't actually count as parks in Pokemon Go. Like, for example, this green circle here, which shows up on PokemonGoMap.info, it's not actually mapped as a park. It's a village green. And as far as we know, village green, not EX eligible. So if we head back over to that Sylph Road thread, here's a list of OpenStreetMap tags that we know have hosted EX raids. They are land use grass, playground, garden, recreation ground, pitch, meadow, golf course, greenfield, scrub, farmyard, grassland, and of course park. And then Tintin Bolton did update this to say that EX raids were found with grassland, farmyard, heath, vineyard, farmland, and orchard. So any of those tags could be EX eligible. So to recap, what you want to do is look at level 14 cells, find a cell with one Pokéstop, make sure that Pokéstop is in a park, come over to OpenStreetMap, check to see if that park is actually tagged as a park or as one of those tags that we just mentioned. I'll link to the thread in the description if you want to check it out there. And then play Ingress, get to level 10, submit a new portal in that level 14 cell where that one Pokéstop is. When that Pokéstop, or when that portal is approved and becomes a Pokéstop, that original Pokéstop that exists there in the park will then become a gym, and that gym should be eligible to hold EX raids. And of course, even if you're not looking to make EX eligible gyms, this is a way to make new gyms. Just look for level 14 cells with one Pokéstop, add a new portal there, and one of those will become a gym. Or with 5 Pokéstops, and once you hit 6, another one will become a gym. Or with 19 Pokéstops, and once you hit 20, a third gym should appear. Now at this point, I've been talking for so long that my camera actually hit its maximum clip size and stopped recording. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Again, the most important points are make sure you're not submitting in a level 17 cell that already has a Pokéstop. Each level 17 cell can only have one Pokéstop or gym. Make sure you're looking for level 14 cells with only one Pokéstop, or 5 Pokéstops, or 19 Pokéstops, so you can hit the next threshold to create a new gym. And then look for Pokéstops that are in parks, and make sure those parks were mapped on OpenStreetMap at least 2 years ago. July 15th, 2016 is the most recent date that we know of that one of these EX hosting parks has been mapped. I hope that helps. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer them. I know it's a kind of a confusing and difficult topic. And also if you have any success stories. I know this has worked for a lot of people since these threads showed up on the Sylph Road originally. There's a lot of stories from people who say that they've successfully used this knowledge to create new gyms in their cities. So if you've been successful, let us know in the comments too. I'm gonna get to these packages another day because this was kind of a dense video. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow. Adventure Week's almost over, the last full day. Also, Ho-Oh's been extended, I guess until the 21st. And Latios and Latias are flying away, like today. Busy day in Pokemon Go. See you tomorrow.